Γεια σας. Είμαι ο Δημήτρης Κιουσόπουλος, δημοσιογράφος και μουσικός κριτικός και βρισκόμαστε στο αμφιθέατρο Artemis στον Άλυμο, την έδρα της Φιλαρμόνιας Ορχήστρας Αθηνών και έχουμε μαζί μας τη Maria Keller, την αρχιμουσικό της επόμενης συναυλίας με έργα Philippos Tsalachouris, Antonin Dvorak και Schumman. Maria, γεια σου.
Γεια σου.
Welcome here at the Artemis Hall. It's a place that must be familiar to you, since last year you won a competition here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I am very glad to be back here, and it brings back a lot of happy memories and a lot of exciting memories as well. And last year we mainly focused on Brahms, on his first and second symphony, and now I'm happy to bring back more music that is very close to my heart.
Can I first ask you how you learned about the competition of the Philharmonic Orchestra and the Masterclass, and how you decided to come and what it bring to you?
So a very dear friend of mine, he's a conductor as well, and he worked with Michalis Economo before. And then I went to his Masterclass first in Cyprus, and that was a year before. And I really liked it, so I decided to come back. And and I was obviously very interested to come to Athens and to get to know this orchestra. And so I decided to come back to this masterclass.
And luckily, it brought you also a concert.
Yeah.
And we're very happy that you're here for Conduct. How is it to return to an orchestra that you have already been familiar with? An orchestra that chose you actually to conduct them.
Yeah, obviously that's the best thing that can happen to a conductor. If you know that the orchestra actually likes you and actually wants to work with you, that's a lot better than showing up and hoping for the best. So it's really great, and I enjoyed my time here, and I enjoyed the rehearsals a lot and working with these musicians here, and so it's great.
So is it a frightening moment when you step on the podium, or maybe without a podium, you're tall, and you meet people for the first time, faces for the first time?
Yeah, it's very frightening, and it doesn't really get better. So I still get nervous every single time I rehearse. It's more the rehearsals that are frightening than the concert, because in the concert you know that you have prepared and you know that you can't change anything anymore, but it's the rehearsals where you meet the people and you really want to get the most out of those rehearsal days.
About conducting, how much it is technique, how much is knowing the music, how much it is working with people, or maybe something else.
So conducting is very different to studying a music instrument. So I come from the piano, and for the first years of playing the piano, you mainly focus on trying to get the technique right, so your fingers move in the right time. For conducting, obviously there's a technique, and obviously you always have to get better at it. But there's no real point in trying to focus on technique when you don't know what you're doing musically. So for me, knowing what I want from the score and knowing that I know everything that is in the score and I've analyzed it is the most important part. But it's equally important to be able to really work with people, because it doesn't really matter how well you're prepared if you don't know how to get it through to the people who are sitting in front of you. They play the music and they are the musicians. I just stand there and hope for the best. So if they don't want to, and if they have a really strong different opinion, there's nothing I can do.
So how did you get engaged with music in the first place?
So I started on the piano because I was just always fascinated by it. And my dad, he played the piano, so there was always this huge instrument in our house, and we had an upright piano, and I was always fascinated by it, and I pressed some notes and it didn't sound very well. And then I went to kindergarten, and we had some musical primary lessons, and I always wanted to play the piano there, but they told us, no, you're little kids, you're not supposed to do that. Here's some drums. I played them, and they told me, okay, you should really not consider doing anything with concern with music, and I did anyway. And a few years after that, when I was 8, I started my first piano lessons. Was obsessed by it, and I really wanted to do more lessons, and I pleaded to go back there. And that's how it started. And I was very lucky. When I was 16, I changed schools, and then there were a lot of people in my new school that played music, and suddenly I was surrounded by people who were like-minded. And I had a great teacher who was interested in my piano skills, and she told me, okay, you have to play in this competition, and you have to do this chamber orchestra, and you have to do this chamber music, and we will basically put you in every single music thing there is in this school. And that's how I got into that.
And how did you switch to conducting?
So I liked playing music by myself, but I more enjoyed chamber music more than just playing solo music. And then I got more into orchestra music because I also play the saxophone, and there's some wind orchestras, I think it is called. And I played jazz in big bands, and I played classical saxophone in wind orchestras, and I was fascinated by it. And just the larger the ensemble got around me, I found it even better, because there's so many different people and so many different opinions about music, and it all collides and makes this awesome music, an awesome concert. So I just thought, okay, I'm obviously fascinated by that. So what if I just stand in front of the orchestra and try that? And I was very naive, and luckily it worked out, and I passed my entrance exams, and then it just continued from there.
Well, it's fantastic, because this way there are many opinions, but now you can have yours for the...
Sometimes, I try my best.
And more now we listen to the word maestra. There's a last barrier maybe that has fallen down, that how easy it is for women to become conductors. It seems that now it happens.
I think it's a slow change, obviously, and it takes a lot of time to really. I don't know how to put it in words, but I was very lucky to be born in a time where it was normal that women were working, and women were in positions of leadership or something. But there's definitely still sometimes where you are in front of the orchestra and there are some comments. Not in this orchestra. I want to make this very clear. I had very great experiences with this orchestra. But there's definitely times where you think, okay, this comment, you just didn't really have to do that. But it happens, and it's just part of the change.
Is that part of general democratization of classical music?
Yeah, I think so. Because also, there was a process in the last 50 years. If you look at rehearsals from the famous conductors 50, 60 years ago, they were terrible people. They also musicians, but they shouted at the orchestra members, and you think, why? That's not necessary, and it doesn't help the music, obviously, but also you destroying people's souls and minds, and for what purpose? And I think it's really good that this changed over the last 60, 50 years, and the orchestra musicians have more rights. They can say, no, we actually don't want to get shouted at, and that's not a good idea. And I'm glad this hierarchy sort of changed, and there's more democracy within the orchestra, and there's more equalness, because in my opinion, at least, only in this way, it's almost like chamber music now, where you have very strong opinions in the orchestra and a very strong opinion in the conductor, and together you can make the music, but not against each other.
And do you think that this brings also a greater public, that now there are more people that are interested in classical music from different walks of life, from different backgrounds?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yes. So I come from a family that, on one side, they were very used to going to concerts, and they grew up playing the piano, and all the sisters and brothers played the piano. And on the other side of the family, they didn't really get into contact with classical music, and I see how hard it is still to put a bridge between this concept of no, this is for like rich people, and this is for the people who go to an opera house. They are the rich people, and we have nothing to do with them. And now there's a bridge being created because there's younger people going there and people from all kind of different backgrounds. And we finally see that music is truly for everyone and not just for one kind of people.
Do you think that the younger musicians that are active on social media are helping with that?
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful change. For me, I'm terrible at social media. I wish I wouldn't be, but I definitely think it's great, and we have to change stuff because otherwise classical music is going to die. And if we don't have an audience, what are we doing this for? And so I think it's great that people who are very good at doing videos and doing social media are taking charge of that and are just spreading the word and spreading the music, because the classical music is still modern and it has so much to give the people, and it deserves to be reached.
Just to mention that we came here walking. You are a great athlete also. You are walking a lot. And you explained me how this not only helps you keep fit, but it helps you with your music work.
So I like hiking while studying. So how I go about it is mostly I study the score at my desk, try to remember it. Mm-hmm. And now this close to the concert, hopefully, everything is already in my head. And so walking, hiking, running around gives me the chance to just focus on what I've already got in my head and try to remember that. And then I notice the small details that are not in my head, and then I go back home and have a look at it.
Well, in one of the rare occasions you were posting on social media, you walked from Munich to Salzburg. How many kilometers is that?
I think it was 180 kilometers.
How many days?
In 4. It was very cold, so I hiked very, very quickly.
So you went through which symphonies?
There was actually Mahler 4 in this time, and it was beautiful because in the start of Mahler 4, you've got this tip, 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 tip in the high flutes, and also, forgot the name in English, but it's a percussion instrument, and it sounds like bells. So in the olden days where you had a carriage and a snow carriage, you had those little horses in front of it, and then the people were carried in the back, and you had those bells ringing to it. Yes. And it was the exact same sound. And I remember just walking, and I had this music in my head because I had just studied it, and I was focusing on the first movement. And I remember just stopping in my tracks because there were those huge trees just slightly like going like this in the wind. And it was completely silent, and there was snow everywhere. And for a moment, you could really envision being in the 19th century and having far less people around you, not the noise of the city, no cars, nothing. And you could envision this carriage going past your way if you would close your eyes. So yeah, that's what hiking brings me, and that's how it brings me closer to the music.
What are the advantages of memorizing music?
For me, it is... I don't trust myself to stand on the podium and to look at the music and seeing all those small little details and then still knowing the big picture. Because I know that I'm going to be focused on, there's the clarinet entrance there, and it has to be in pianissimo instead of piano. And then I focus on that, and the true meaning of the music gets lost. So I think of a symphony or the cello concerto as like a red thread, and you follow this red thread. And while you prepare and go inwards while standing on a podium just before you conduct, I always try to envision this entire symphony and envision what's the goal of this piece. So, for example, both Schumann and Dvorak have this concept of going from dark to light. And then just before I start to conduct, I try to know, okay, this is the concept of this music and it ends there, and how do I get to this? And I can do this a lot better if I know the piece actually off by heart.
And tell us how you choose the program of the concert.
I chose it because of a few different reasons. Mainly, it is because those pieces are just all very close to my heart, and we have a very special place in my life, and the music is just it speaks to me a lot. So that's I knew of Schumann before and of Dvorak. And then I talked to Mr. Mariaras, and he told me about those 3 Greek pieces and those 3 Greek dances, and I looked into it, and I found a very strong connection of those pieces that are like very symbolize the Greek or symbolize a connection to Greece, and then Dvorak, which symbolizes a connection to the Bohemian country, and so I connected those 2, and that's how the program got created.
When you're called to conduct music from all over the world, very often you have to deal with music written by people that come from a very different background. Dvorak, for example, he is so much imbued with Czech tradition, yet we know his music, so we know how to play it, or we guess. When it comes to a piece of music that is not so familiar, for example, the 3 dance images of Asia Minor by Philippos Tsalachouris, I guess is something that is new to you. How do you deal with such a piece? How you go in it?
So in this case, I've got the great privilege of, which always, it shouldn't normally happen, but I take it as a privilege of getting to a country where this music is much more known and this style of music is much more known, and I have no way of saying, okay, this is part of my culture, because it isn't. I'm unfortunately not from Greece. I wish I was. But yeah, I get the privilege of conducting this orchestra, which is a lot closer to this music. So I can also learn from them. But in preparation for those rehearsals and for the concert, I obviously try to get more knowledge of Greek tradition and of Greek music and of Greek culture. And I try to get as close to it as I think I can. And with this music is a lot easier because I like those dances a lot. And so I think obviously there's always going to be some German version of it. I don't think I will erase that, but maybe it'll bring just a new special way to it.
Let me ask you now how you chose the Schumann Symphony, apart from that you're a graduate from the Schumann Hochschule from Düsseldorf.
There's a few different reasons. First of all, it's just a great piece, and I always wanted to do it. And I studied it a lot, and I spent countless hours and nights just going over this music because other people in my class in Düsseldorf, they conducted it, and I always played it on the piano. And this way, I knew the piece very well, and I knew all the notes, but I never had actually conducted it. And I guess I just wanted to do that. And it's a fascinating piece. It's got such an interesting history. Obviously, there's this part where you've got 2 versions. There's a first version which is almost not known. There's some conductors who do it now, but it's really not very known. And then the second version, which we're going to do, which is created 10 years later. So from a completely different person, because obviously Schumann, he changed a lot in those 10 years. He was a completely different man.
When he wrote the first version, he was approximately at your age now.
So which we're not going to disclose.
Which does it make it a youthful work or a work of energy?
Mm-hmm. I think there's no music of Schumann's which doesn't have that energy, because he's such an all his works are very honest and very true to himself, and there's so many characters in his music at the same time. But yeah, you can feel the differences because he was around 28, I think, when he conducted when he did the first version, and then when he finished his revisions, he didn't really look at the piece in those 10 years, but then he sat down again and wrote almost a completely different piece out of it, where he just kept the motives but changed a lot otherwise. And that's interesting.
Okay. You told me that Dvorak cello concerto is also special to you. Mm-hmm. In what way?
So I think it's special to almost everyone who's heard it. It's just a great piece. It is very interesting because Dvorak, before he wrote it, he really didn't want to compose anything like any concerto for a cello, because it was really, he thought there was no way to make it sound well, and he was really opposed to the idea. And he had a lot of great cellist friends who backed him to do it, but he still didn't want to do it. And look at how great a piece it turned out. It was, I think, for Dvorak as well, he felt a very strong connection to it. There's obviously this very individual aspect of Dvorak and the things that happened in his life that have a deep connection to this piece. So I think everyone who hears it and everyone who studies this just feels this very human connection and feels drawn to it. I think in this case, it's very interesting to know the reason behind it, the biography. So the second movement, actually, he stole from himself. He composed early on a lied for soprano and piano, where there's the exact same melody, and it was the favorite piece of his childhood crush, Josefina. Oh. And it didn't work out and was fine, and he married her sister. But so everything was fine, and then he moved away, and he got the letter a few years afterwards saying that Josefina, who he still liked a lot, and was terribly sick and was lying in her deathbed, and he was obviously distraught, not only because he obviously cared about her, but also because his now wife was the sister of this young woman. And so in this time he was working on this cello concerto, and that's how the second theme of the second movement came to be, because it's the same melody as her favorite piece. And he has this motive is written first in minor, and it's got this brutality behind it. The entire orchestra plays the tuba and the trombones as well, and you get this sadness but also anger about how unjust this is. And he originally wanted to finish it like this, but he came back from America. He lived in America and came back to his fatherland, and when he arrived he found out that Josefina died, and that's where he changed the ending of the third movement, which was originally going to be this very joyous moment. But he wanted to change this and make it a more solemn ending.
It's a puzzling ending a little bit. It changes the mood at the end.
Yeah, that's why I think it's such a true and honest work, because he actually refused so many soloists telling him, "Oh, please just change the ending. We want to have one more like virtuosic part, and we want to show off a bit." But she persisted and said, no, this is supposed to end like this. And so it has this more solemn ending where everyone in the audience is going to be a bit confused because you just had this virtuosic ending and then he adds another ending to it. And that's because he remembers and he looks back onto the pain of the second movement and resolves this in this kind of acceptance of the grief. Yeah.
So obviously, music for you is not something disconnected from life.
No, never. And that's why I think that classical music is still so important and will never lose its importance because there's so many composers, Schumman and Dvorak being two of them, but obviously so many more, especially in the Romantic era, who put their own lives into the music. So you can hear when something terrible or something very joyous has happened in their lives. And we as a modern audience and we as modern musicians, we can still feel it because we have the same emotions. We're not going to, even though it's been 150 years, but we're not going to think differently about death. It's still going to concern us in the same way. And so it doesn't matter where the composers came from, which country, which time. It's still, we're all human and we all have the same emotions.
And you're playing now with a cellist who is Matthias Blazat. You have played together already, so you know each other, you have worked together, and you have also something other in common. You have both studied in Düsseldorf, and you're both coming from the antipodes.
Yeah, it's funny actually. Yeah, he's from New Zealand, and it's where he currently resides as well. And I spent 2 years in Australia. It was a very formative part of my life. I went there when I was 16, stayed there until I was 18, made all my first musical experiences there. And it's now funny to have us both first be in Düsseldorf at the same time and now be in Athens in the same time and how this connects. So I worked with Matthias before and we did the Elgar cello concerto, also a great piece. I prefer the Dvorak cello concerto, but it's both great pieces. And he is an amazing musician. That's why I was very happy when he said yes on coming here and when working together again. And he's one of those very few people who is obviously a great musician, obviously plays amazingly on the cello, but is also a great chamber musician. So we worked together. I played the piano with him, and there was always just this. There was never a question of, okay, how are we going to do this? And I think we should do this. And there was never a discussion because we felt the same way about music. And now we've rehearsed together a week ago, and it was the same all over again, even though we haven't met in like a year. But there was never a discussion on how to play certain things because we could just make music instantly together.
Do conductors, pianists, conduct and play the piano differently than conductors and pianists, respectively? Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah. My piano playing has changed a lot. I think it's gotten better, even though I know I focus more on conducting, obviously. But because now when I sit at the piano, I play like an orchestra. I try to simulate the orchestra. And I played now a lot from orchestra scores, so not the piano reduction, but the orchestra score. And you kind of just get used to trying to embody this orchestral sound, which is a lot more richer and has a lot more colors. So and also through conducting, you get more flexible, and you are trained to instantly react when a soloist does something different. So you get also more flexible on the piano while accompanying someone.
So, good luck with the concert.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing a lot of people in the audience. And I think it'll be a great concert. It'll be a lot of great pieces. And I hope to see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.